Today is day 2, or the start of phase 2, which is the research phase. Now that I've chosen a subject for the next Screen Jumper episode, now I have to gather all the movies and games and all the knowledge I can about the subject so that I can make a video. Here's how I do it. First, I'm going to talk about how I get the movie footage that I use. So, for many reasons, I don't pirate the movies, even though that would be the easiest route. First of all, don't quite agree with it, ethically, morally, spiritually, whatever. But also, it's just really hard to control the quality of the movies that you find. Usually those are optimized for fast download speeds, and so they have very small file sizes, and therefore they don't look good. I'm a stickler for quality, and I like to get as high file size, high bit rate, highest quality that I could find. Typically for even Blu-ray transfers of movies, you'll find them online at like 2 gigabytes for the whole thing, which is way smaller than what's on the Blu-ray disc. Usually Blu-rays are anywhere between 20 and 30 gigabytes uncompressed. So that's what I try to go for. If I can't find Blu-rays, I'll go after the DVDs, but of course Blu-ray is always a priority. So, with Ghost in the Shell, I had Ghost in the Shell 2.0, which is garbage. They add, the file size and the quality is very nice, but they basically substituted in some CGI crap in place of key animation scenes, and they added like a green filter to things that it's just not good. It ain't good, but slight misstep, that's fine. So instead, to keep things on the cheap, I tried to go to my local library, which has a pretty impressive video collection. And what do you know? They have Ghost in the Shell, but on DVD. But that's fine, because this DVD has digitally remastered feature film, blah blah blah, additional 30-minute program, the making of Ghost in the Shell. That's part of the research phase, just getting all the information you can about movies. And things like making of, director commentary, things like that. That's what I like. So that's why I decided to get the DVD. But I do want that 1080p footage, yo. So I did spring for the 25th anniversary Ghost in the Shell, which does have, lack of CGI nonsense, lack of that weird green filter, but it does not have the making of feature, which boggles the mind when this is supposed to be a definitive 25th anniversary edition release. So that's why I try to do as wide research as I can and find as many sources as I can, because then you'll figure, oh yeah, that DVD has a making of that the Blu-ray does not. Anyway, my library didn't have the 25th anniversary edition Blu-ray in its collection, so I did have to spring for that. But they did have Standalone Complex, which is a TV show that I'm going to watch. Volume 1 of the second season, and nothing else. So, thanks, library. I'll try to use that, but yeah, that's incomplete. But I did spring for the complete first season box set, which, by the way, I bought these on Walmart.com of all places 2 days ago. They arrived yesterday. Like, less than 24 hours after I ordered them, they were at my front door, which is some crazy voodoo magic, but a fortunate incident anyway. So, yeah, I have that. What I will do is I will load this into my Blu-ray drive on my computer. Gonna have a quick hardware tour in a few minutes. I load the Blu-ray into the Blu-ray drive, and I rip it using a program called MakeMKV. Now, what MakeMKV does is take the video off of the Blu-ray disc without any compression or loss of quality or whatever, and transforms it all into a video file under the MKV extension, which is great. That's exactly what I want. And when I'm archiving Blu-rays to this external hard drive that I have for archival purposes, I will usually just leave it at that, and that is perfect. However, the video editing program that I use, Premiere Pro, does not handle MKV files for some unexplainable reason. People have been bugging Adobe for years to have MKV support, and they don't. So I use a program called Handbrake, which basically converts it all, the MKV format file, to an MP4 file format. What that does is basically just allow Premiere Pro to actually use it. There's a little bit of compression involved in that, but usually not much loss of audio and video quality. So that's how I get the movies onto the computer, ready to use in Premiere Pro. Yes, the file sizes are insane, but so am I, so that's okay. By the way, Make MKV works for DVDs as well, so that's all good. Now, the next step is getting gameplay footage. Like I said, I don't emulate. I try to use the original hardware as much as I can. If it's on the computer, I will use a program called dxtory, which gives you, it's kind of like fraps, which is also another game footage capturing program, but it gives you a lot more control, a lot more higher quality potential than fraps does. If dxtory just won't work with a program, I'll use fraps, because fraps does have a tendency to just work with everything, and if that's the last resort, fine, whatever. But I will use dxtory. The video codec that I use is the UT Video YUV422 codec, BT.709 VCM. If you don't care about video codecs or whatever, that probably means nothing to you, but that's the one I use. I record at 60 FPS because I want, of course, all my videos to be at 60 FPS because that's nice and buttery smooth. That's pretty much it as far as capturing. That's generally all I need to do. Again, if dxtory doesn't work, I'll use fraps. But that pretty much gets it done, and that's a good point to transition to the hardware that I use, which kind of explains the entire workflow that I use. Please forgive how hideous my bedroom is, but we're going to go over here, and I want to point out a few things about my computer that's pertinent to gameplay footage capture. I'm not going to give a full tour because I could just post a PC part picker spec sheet in the description, which is what I'm going to do. But what's important here is I have 32 gigabytes of DDR3 memory, which is way overkill, but it does help with juggling a video encoding process along with running a video game and video editing and rendering, which I'll get to later. Then I have this WindForce NVIDIA GTX 980 Ti video card, which is awesome because it basically chews up and spits out whatever I throw at it and can, for most games, very easily maintain 1080p 60 FPS, which is the standard for all my videos. Then down here we have three Seagate Barracuda 3TB hard drives, which is an insane amount of storage. However, these two are linked in what I believe is RAID 1, and basically what that means is that whatever is written to or deleted from one is written or deleted to from the other. So basically, it's an instant backup. If one of these drives explodes, the other one can recover. I can recover all my data from the other one, which is nice, especially when I'm updating and changing a lot of data daily, which I do. Then this third one is my video capture drive. Again, it's 3 terabytes, so it can hold a massive amount of very high quality 1080p 60 FPS footage, and it don't care because I'm not low on space, and that's this drive's only job. That's pretty much it as far as gameplay capture is concerned. But what if the footage is not on the PC? How do you capture that? Well, this is a bit of an experimental setup. I've done a few quick tests with it, but it should work. So here we have the PS2 in all its glory with fresh from eBay, the Ghost in the Shell game, loaded up, ready to go. It has the power cables going that way, then the AV goes out over to here. This is a AV to HDMI upscaling box. What this does, it takes the analog video and sound signals, converts it to an HDMI compatible signal, and upscales it to either your choice of 720p or 1080p. Right now this is set to 720p. I'll get into that in a little moment. Then it has HDMI output, which goes all the way over to here, into this bad boy. This is known as the Hauppauge, that's how you pronounce it, Hauppauge HD PVR2 game capture box. What this does is it basically processes the incoming HDMI signal and makes it easy for it connected via USB all the way up here to basically takes the load off of processing the video stream and makes it easy for the PC to capture it. And then it has an HDMI pass-through. This cable goes all the way up to my second monitor. So basically there's a significant delay, if you can kind of see, between what happens here and what happens on the capture. So if I just pipe it through the HDMI pass-through to the second monitor, I can game with no lag whatsoever, and it will just be processed with a couple seconds delay here. And then basically I have the output of this monitor hooked up to these very nice speakers here. If I could turn those on, you can probably kind of hear it. I'll treat you to the best startup sound of anything ever. If I can kind of, oh, it just has it. Okay. Oh, that's nice. And here I'll kind of demonstrate that input lag I was talking about. Yeah, it's several seconds. I could never game just monitoring the capture, but thankfully there's that pass-through that lets it go through there. That. And that's Ghost in the Shell. Let me turn that down because, wow, that's loud. Alright, we're just gonna turn this off for now. But then basically that's piped over to this capture software, and I can easily capture it. I would like to do it at 1080p 60, but this box is somewhat limited in that it can only do 60 FPS if it's 720p. So that's why I currently have this set to 720p output. So I will be capturing at 720p 60 FPS unless I could find a suitable workaround, which I don't think that's going to happen. But then again, the graphics on these old games are so bad anyway that debating between 1080p and 720p doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because it's going to look a bit blurry and crappy regardless. But getting movie footage and gameplay footage is not the only step of the research phase. It's also note-taking, everyone's favorite school time activity. Yes, note-taking is very boring. It is not exciting at all, but it is crucial for the writing phase. There's just way too much to keep track of when I'm writing that to keep it all up in here. My memory is terrible. That's why I take notes. That is why it's crucial for the writing stage. Here are my notes for the first few episodes of the TV series, for example. I write down plot points, character names, any kind of visual language or symbolism that's used in the movie, or in this case the TV series, any kind of literary allusions or other allusions to other works. I write it all down in here, and that will help me keep track of everything that I want to cover when I actually do the writing of the episode. So if you're wanting to do something similar, take notes. They will save your life. But That's not the only thing that helps me during the research phase. Particularly with movies, I will look up reviews and use that to help kind of construct my analysis. I particularly like Roger Ebert. Just the way he wrote was incredible as far as getting a lot of information across very accurately and concisely. If there's anything that I am, it's not concise, but he just has a wonderful way of cutting right to the heart of the matter, which I really admire. All that to say is I consult a number of different reviews and basically use those to help, if I can find it. And if it's relevant to the movie that I'm watching, I'll find different books and other supplementary material that I read to help me, basically just construct my analysis of different movies and games. One in particular, for Ghost in the Shell, I'll be getting the original manga from the library. They have it, so I will be checking that out and reading it. For my hard-boiled stranglehold video, I referred to this book, which basically touched upon like the spiritual themes in John Woo's work that is not immediately apparent, but once you look for it, you could totally see it. That helped me with the first stranglehold video I did. I didn't really need it for the Redux, but whatever. That pretty much sums up the research phase. I will just try to play through the game to completion, or at least get enough footage to have a total view of it. I will watch the movie usually several times. I'll watch it at least once without taking notes, just to kind of let the magic wash over and experience it as it was meant to, whatever. I'll usually watch it at least one other time just to take notes. I'll usually end up watching it 4 or 5 times. Obviously that wasn't true with the Alien movies, because there was 3 of them I had to watch, and I'm only going to give the TV series for Ghost in the Shell one watch through, because asking me to watch 11 hours of crap more than once, it's kind of insane, so I'm not going to do that. And gameplay wise, I'll try to play it to completion if I can, or at least just get enough footage that I need. And that pretty much covers the research phase. Thank you for watching part 2 of this series, covering phase 2, which is the research phase of the Screen Jumper production cycle. Stay tuned for phase 3, which will be the writing portion. Thanks for watching.